Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Thais Italiani. I'm the Market Intelligence Manager here at hEDGEpoint and your host for today's webinar. On behalf of the entire hEDGEpoint team, I'd like to welcome all participants of this edition. In today's event, our goal is to share with you the top finds from our latest white paper regarding the items of El Niño, challenges and opportunities for commodities. So our team of market intelligence and risk management experts will join me today to share insights to help understand the overall scenario and which risk management strategies can be used to El Niño impacts to soybean, corn, wheat, sugar, and coffee. As risk management company, our purpose to help our clients to turn financial risks into opportunities by strategically anticipating and responding to market movements. So before we start, I'd like to notify the viewers that we have our live chat features available. If you have any questions, click on chat at the right-hand corner of our control panel. Our experts will be happy to clarify any questions you might have during our presentation. Also, we kindly ask you to share your opinion about this event. Scan the QR code and submit your feedback. Everyone that responds to our survey will also receive the white paper and the recording of this event. Your opinion really matters to us. In this webinar, we start with grains and oilseeds. So I'd like to call our analyst Pedro Skik to speak about the weather pattern impact on soy and corn markets, focusing on fundamentals. Welcome, Pedro.
Thank you, Thais. Thank you for the audience that is here today with us. So when talking about soybeans and corn, we have a wide variety of effects of El Niño because we also have a very large area cultivated with these crops all over the world. So we're going to focus on three countries, two regions. So US, North America, and then South America with Brazil and Argentina. And of course, there are also different crop calendars within these countries. So we're going to analyze a couple of different windows within each one of them. So starting with the US, after many years talking about a La Nina, we now have an El Nino. The last really intense event that we had was back in 2015. We had a couple more since then, but they were lighter in intensity. So in the US, we have El Nino is a bit more, the effects of El Nino are a bit more strong towards the winter, so towards the end of the year, and that's because of the position of jet streams over the country. In the summer, the effects are smaller, although they still exist. So what we saw in past El Nino years was temperatures a bit lower than normal during the US summer, especially towards the west of the Corn Belt, and some dry spots towards the east of the Corn Belt, so mainly over Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana. And that's precisely what we see, and the effects of El Nino on yields are consistent with these main weather patterns that we saw in the past. So El Nino has been positively correlated through most of the main producing states in the US, especially towards the west of the Corn Belt, and has had a more significant negative impact, especially in Ohio and Indiana, where these dry spots have been located in the past. Also, it's worth pointing out that corn has felt a little bit more the effects of El Nino than soybeans in the past. One thing that I would like to highlight is that, again, the effects of El Nino are mild and not too strong in the US, apart from these localized impacts. But overall, at the national level, yields haven't felt too much, have not fallen too much due to these effects in the east. So US is set to plant a huge corn acreage, especially, and it has for a couple crops now been chasing that 180 plus bushel per acre at the national level. So effects of El Nino again have been, although mild, being on average positive for most of the US. So this is something that could help them get there after a couple of years of poor weather. So moving to South America, there's two windows that are worth looking at here, and they are our winter. So the period, our autumn winter, so the period that we are at right now, so from March until August, and then our summer, which is spring summer, which starts September and even into February. So in this first window, we have winter corn developing in Brazil. And winter corn develops from from the middle of Paraná up into Maranhão, Tocantins, up in the northeast of the country. Okay, and there are two different effects that we see when talking about this. So first is El Nino usually means a hotter winter for us in here, and on top of that, there's a few spots where there's some correlation with precipitation, but not enough in the main winter corn regions to really make a difference. So that means El Nino is not as correlated with precipitation as it is with temperatures for winter corn regions. The the combination of these two factors is the result of the combination of these two factors is that high temperatures increase the evapotranspiration of the crops, and therefore in years where precipitation does end up being good or sufficient levels, the effects of the high temperatures are diminished. The effects of high temperatures on yields are diminished. But in years when it falters, these high temperatures really can augment the effects of hydric stress on yields, and therefore we see a negative correlation between El Nino and winter corn yields, especially in the center west. Okay, when we move to the summer, there's a very clear divide between south of Brazil and Argentina and the rest of Brazil, because the effects of El Nino in South American summer are, especially when it comes to temperatures, are pretty similar. So we do expect hotter temperatures in our summer over here. But there's, so this is for Brazil, and interestingly enough, a bit more cooler temperatures in the agricultural belt of Argentina. Now, the difference is El Nino is a bit more correlated with precipitation in the south of Brazil and also in Argentina. So that's why we see this big divide between north and south, so to speak, of Argentina. We do tend to see neutral to slightly negative correlation with yields of soybeans, for example, in the center west and Mato Piba. So north, center north of Brazil, and a bit more positive correlations in Argentina and south of Brazil as well. Okay, so this is the general effect of El Nino, a bit more mild in the US. In Brazil and Argentina, there's this divide, especially when it comes to the summer, between south and Argentina, center north of Brazil, a bit more neutral to negative in this last, a bit more positive in the first, so this is south and Argentina again. And overall, it's pretty hard to say what will come out of it because of again, this diversity of effects that we have. But that's pretty much it for soybeans, and I would like to call back Thais to continue the event. Again, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for all those that are participating with us.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. And now let's see how risk management can be applied in this context. To talk about it, I'd like to invite our risk management expert for grains and oilseeds.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcelo Lacerda. I'm the head of desk for Grains Brazil. Thanks for joining our webinar. Thanks, Thais, for inviting me to participate in such events. We know, as most of our colleagues has already mentioned during this event, the El Nino is a weather event, is a weather pattern that has different effects on different commodities around the globe. More specifically speaking about Brazil grains, we won't have many effects in corn or soybean. Most of the effects will be some positive effects, considering historical data, especially in south of Brazil and also Argentina when it comes to South America. But in general speaking, we do not like to, I don't feel comfortable to give any advice in terms of risk management when it comes to weather pattern events. So, I mean, it's don't. My only advice is don't rely on a weather event to take any sort of action or trade anything. Let me be more specific. I'm not gonna sell my soybean right now because I believe that El Nino is gonna cause some kind of stress and will lower the production in the United States or whatever. Don't do that. I mean, please be very concise. Stay focused on your risk management policy. We as HEDGEpoint, we like to enhance our clients' margins. We like to help our clients to build a effective risk management policy. And in that sense, we cannot just simply give any risk management advice. We need to understand each client's reality when it comes to cash flow, when it comes to strategy, when it comes to objective, in order to build this tailor-made risk management policy. So my only advice is stay focused on your risk management policy, stay focused on the market, and count on HEDGEpoint to help you to build a successful risk management policy whenever necessary. Count on the risk management guys here and on the team and on our knowledge on this market. So thanks again for inviting me. Back to you, Thais.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving to it, I'd like to call our analyst, Aleph Diaz. Welcome, Aleph.
Welcome,
Please,
Thais.
Aleph, welcome. Share with us the potential new impacts for wheat market and what can we expect in this environment.
So thanks, Thais, and thanks everyone for joining our webinar about El Nino. So yeah, like we have for other grains, wheat has a very diversified production in the global context, and also like the main exporters, they have like different crop calendars. So for this year, for the 23-24 crop, the main like windows that we gotta pay attention to, and where like the El Nino can have important effect on production figures is the spring wheat in the northern hemisphere and also the southern hemisphere producers. So talking about the spring wheat in the northern hemisphere producers, first I'd like to start with Russia. That is the top exporter of wheat in the world. And for Russia, we gotta, of course, like take a look at the spring crop there. That accounts for around 25 to 30% of Russia's crop. And the El Nino usually is usually negative for yields in Russia, because it usually brings colder temperature than usual, but the main effects on the precipitation figures. So it brings like usually drier weather when compared to the normal years. So that can impact the production of spring wheat in Russia. But we gotta remember that Russia comes from high ending stocks from the 22-23 season, which may offset this situation. And we also like currently have kind of good supplies of wheat in the European markets and also in the Black Sea. So that may offset this impact of the El Nino in the European markets. And another like region that we gotta also take a look on in the Northern Hemisphere, where they have relevant spring wheat crops is firstly the US, where like also the spring wheat usually accounts for around 30% of the country's total production. But usually for the US, different than in Russia, the El Nino tends to be positive for crops. So it usually also brings colder temperatures than usual, but a wetter scenario, so greater precipitation, which should be positive for the spring wheat in the US. Of course, like the planted area haven't increased as much as the winter wheat, but still it can like be beneficial for US production figures. When we talk about Canada, there is another relevant producer of wheat in the northern hemisphere. The impact the correlation is not as great as in the US and Russia when we talk about like the correlation of the El Nino with the temperature and the precipitation, but the share of spring wheat in the crops in the country's total production is much greater. In Canada, spring wheat accounts for around 90% of the production, so that can bring that can make the El Nino more relevant for Canada. And usually the El Nino tends to be negative for the country's crop because it brings warmer temperatures and also drier weather. So we gotta also take a look on to be watching the effect of the El Nino in Canada. But like the total planted area for wheat in Canada rose to 6% this year, according to some data we had from the country's agriculture ministry. So this greater planted area can offset the lower yields that can be caused by the El Nino. So those are the impacts on the northern hemisphere when you talk about spring wheat crop. And now moving on to the southern hemisphere, where like the crops a little bit more towards the end of the year. So Argentina and Brazil, when we talk about South America, they're starting to plant right now, and they usually harvest in October, November, so more for the end of the year. And in those regions, so Argentina and also the south of Brazil, that's where pretty much like all the most of the wheat in South America is produced. Usually the El Nino has a positive impact. So as Pedro mentioned, in this region, usually the El Nino brings weather and colder weather for this region. So we have like greater precipitation, which should be beneficial for the crops in Argentina and Brazil. And we also have like a greater planted area in Argentina. We will likely have a greater planted area in Argentina for this crop. And we also like the country comes from a very poor crop in the 22-23 season. So this like the El Nino can contribute to the recovery that we are expecting for this crop. So talking about South America, we may have like a good supply of wheat in this next crop, in the 23-24 crop. And just to sum up like the main effects of the El Nino in wheat, and also like the country where I think that El Nino will have like the greatest impact and where like the El Nino will be more relevant for wheat markets is Australia, which usually has a negative impact of El Nino in its crop. So usually the El Nino means drier weather and also warmer temperatures in Australia. So that can be very damaging for yields in the country. And we have already some first estimates for the impact of this weather in Australia production, and that can lead to a reduction of 50% of the country's crop. We got to remember that in 22-23, Australia had a record crop of 39 million metric tons, and with the impact of El Nino in a worst case scenario, they can have a crop of 20 million metric tons. So that can have a huge impact on wheat markets and also on the trade flow. So we gotta be we gotta take a closer look to the situation in Australia once the crop starts to develop in the second semester of this year. So those are the main points for the impacts of the El Nino in the wheat markets. So I'll go back to Thais for us to continue with the event.
That was great, Aleph. Thank you so much for your insights regarding fundamentals for the wheat market. And now, from the risk management perspective, I'd like to call our expert to add more color to this discussion.
Thank you, Thais. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with the audience today. As discussed previously, El Niño is a natural climate phenomenon that can have significant impacts on the global weather patterns, including droughts, floods, and hurricanes. These events can cause severe damage to infrastructure, crops, and other industries, resulting in potential financial losses for their businesses. So risk management is paramount in the context of El Niño because it helps prepare for and mitigate the potential impacts of these events. By identifying and assessing the risks associated with El Niño, you can implement strategies to reduce your exposure to those risks. So in any business that is dependent on agricultural commodities, you can use derivatives contracts to hedge against the price volatility caused by these weather-related events and to ensure a long-term sustainability. Among the main instruments, there are options and strategies such as call spreads, put spreads, which are among the main instruments used to secure coverage against the price fluctuation. Additionally, there are other structures available that offer protection ranging from 10 to 20% of your cost or at your hedged price. So what are the benefits of hedging with HEDGEpoint? So at HEDGEpoint, we offer a comprehensive approach to market analysis, providing you real-time updates on the latest trends through our global team of experts. Our team has boots on the ground, constantly checking for updates and conducting the raw analysis to ensure that you have all the information you need to make informed decisions. In addition to our market analysis, we offer three key benefits to our clients. The first, we are market makers for most of the options, ensuring that you always have access to liquidity when executing trades. Second, we trade OTC, which allows you a customization of the size and expiration of the date of the contract to meet your specific need. And finally, our online platform enables you to build your own strategy, combining different features, allowing tailored trades that match your unique exposure. So whether you are looking to hedge grains, sugar, or coffee, our approach to risk management provides you the flexibility and the support that you need to navigate the market with confidence. That's it. Back to you, Thais.
It's great to see how financial tools can support producers and consumers in the context of uncertainties, especially this year of El Niño. Now, moving to soft commodities, I'd like to introduce Natalia Gandolf, our expert for coffee markets. Natalia, welcome.
Hello, Thais. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. So for coffee, we want to look at two regions in this window. So considering the second quarter to the third quarter, we're going to look at Brazil and we're going to look at Central America. For Brazil, first, we have a warmer winter, as it has been mentioned before by my colleagues, and we also have the possibility of higher rainfall levels over coffee areas. So what that does is it can cause delays to the harvest, and we just want to remember that we had a very uniform flowering for the 23-24 crops, especially in our Arabica areas, and that would mean a faster harvest this year. It would also mean a very uniform quality for it. But considering the risks of rains and warmer temperatures, we might have a delayed harvest, and we might also have quality issues with heavier rains. The fruits fall to the floor and they ferment, and then we have issues with quality because of that. And historically, El Nino happened for coffee within this window in the years 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 16, 17. But we're not going to consider the last one because it is an outlier since it was recovering from the crop failures in 14, 15 and 15, 16, right? So on average, we would have a crop failure in El Nino years on average by 5%. And considering both El Nino years and neutral positive years, so when we are walking into an El Nino active year, but not quite just yet, we would have a average drop of 4% for Arabica production in Brazil. For Conilon or Robusta, we would have a 10% drop in El Nino years and a 3% drop considering both El Nino and neutral positive years. Uh, we also need to consider that the development of the 24-25 crop in Brazil is at stake because when we consider the spring and summer windows, so if El Nino becomes active now and goes on throughout the year until the development of the 24-25 crop, then we also have warmer weather, but we have lower below average rains, right? So that could cause issues to the flowering of the 24-25 crop and to the cherry filling stage as well. So that could mean lower production and lower screens as well for the 24-25 crop, which is now considered a very optimistic a bumper crop, right? For Central America, we're going to use Honduras as a proxy. So we're going to consider the years 2, 3, and 15, 16. And 15, 16 is also an outlier because the crop was recovering from coffee rust in the region. But when we take all the years that were impacted by El Nino or the neutral positive status, we would have an average decrease in production in the country by 3%. And that is because within the flowering and cherry filling windows, El Nino brings warmer weather over Central America. So that can create issues for these two stages of production in the country. So we've seen that La Nina has affected negatively production for coffee countries in the past years. And now we have El Nino, which also poses a threat for coffee production. So now I will call back Thais.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you so much. And when it comes to risk management for our coffee market, consider all the fundamentals aspects that Natalia has just highlighted. Let's call our risk management expert to join us.
Hi, Thais. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity here. Well, Thais, we know that the effects of El Nino and La Nina have always affected not only the coffee market, but also all other commodities. And for the second half of this year, we have a forecast of a more intense El Nino, bringing more rain during the harvest. And it's already known rain during the harvest period is detrimental to the quality of the coffee bean, negatively influencing the quality of the current crop. The question now is whether this impact will be seen in coffee prices or in Brazilian differentials. Therefore, this would be another factor for increased volatility in the market. And high volatility, in one hand, can be good for the producer because it brings possibilities for him to sell his coffee at better level. But, however, in other hand, it is important that the producer remains well protected against any moves that might go against his or her position. Here at HEDGEpoint, we try to understand the real needs of our clients and we outline strategies to try minimize as much as possible the impacts of an adversity in prices. We use here several strategies to protect against these movements. For example, option structures aiming for a directional spread options and even barrier options, which provides protections up to a certain price at a much reduced cost. Here, us specialists, coffee specialists from HEDGEpoint, we are happy to discuss this and other strategies to protect yourself against high volatility in the coffee markets. That said, back to you, Thais. Thank you very much.
Great topics. Thank you so much. To conclude, let's see what can happen in the sugar market with our expert Livia Coda.
Hi, Thais.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Welcome.
Thanks, Thais. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing the stage with all these amazing people. Thanks everyone for staying with us up until now. And regarding the sugar market, El Niño effects tend to vary, as my colleagues already highlighted, depending on its intensity, timing, region, and even culture, right? So it depends if you're talking about beet, if you're talking about cane, they're both feedstock for sugar, the effects can be different, okay? Especially depending on the window of development of each culture, okay? So if the weather pattern, El Nino, ends up intensifying required conditions for a good development, it could be positive. But if it does not intensify the good part of the weather, right, if it goes towards a diversity, it might be bad for sugar production as it impacts its feedstock. So when we look at El Nino and within the context we have in this year, the main regions that we should look at and worry about is Northern Hemisphere, South Asian countries, so Southeast Asian countries such as Thailand and India, and especially India, and Central America and Brazil. So just an example, if the El Nino effects were bound to happen after September, when the sugar canes already developed in most Northern Hemisphere countries and would bring dryness to both India, Thailand, and Central America countries, we could see higher sugar content because it would mean that the sugar cane would be developed, but it would be on the phase of concentrating sugar. So it would be higher quality. It would mean higher quality for those countries. But what we've been seeing is that since NOAA's last report, and most of my colleagues already highlighted this, the concerns rose as El Nino could get more strong between May and July and could start being positive for El Nino around June. This would mean worse than average monsoons affecting cane development, especially in Southeast Asia. So both India and Thailand crop recovery would be put in check. And we've come from a year of bad Northern Hemisphere crop in 2002, 2003 is still happening, but we've been seeing crop deterioration and we already have a deficit. So if it intensifies this diversity in weather and makes the next season be also a deficit, it means that we have a bullish market with viability tightening, okay? And that's already been priced on the curve today because what we see is a complete inverse with a strong March, May 24 spread. So markets already pricing that we might have some effects in both India and Thailand availability for the next season. If we look at centrals, as Natalia already highlighted, that's hot and dry weather, that could also impact cane development. But note that differently from Southeast Asia, the countries in Central America did invest in irrigation capacity over the past few years. So this might mitigate some of the effects we could see in the region. And the other one that's one of the most and the biggest exporter of sugar, so Brazil, could also be affected by El Nino. Although the correlation is not great, we might see more rains during the winter, and the winter is the phase here in Brazil. So between June and September, when we are actually already harvesting, it's the period where sugar is concentrating on the cane. So if we do have more rains during the winter and even on the late time of the crop, on the harvesting, we could see a worse cane quality, okay? So this could also mean lower sugar content, lower production here in Brazil, and even some disruption in crushing, but we need to wait and see if it's gonna happen or not. So these are the main effects we could see in 23-24 crop season in Brazil, but it could also affect 24-25 as it could get drier during cane development after crushing, so between September and the beginning of next year. So all this brings a lot of volatility to the market because still we don't know if it's going to happen or not, if monsoons are going to be greater or not, but we expect it to be worse. So we expect availability to still remain tight. And in this context of high volatility, it is very important for us to try to maintain and monitor those aspects of climate so we can try to figure out and anticipate market movements. And for that, with that, we can choose the correct risk management strategy. So to talk a little bit more about that, I asked Thais to take over. Thanks, Thais.
Thank you, Livia. It was very insightful. As you said, have all these fundamentals in mind. Let's connect it to risk management with our expert. Please, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Thais. Thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, complementing what we've been studying about El Nino, this year we have an increasing probability of an El Nino. And so we need to distinguish between an early El Nino and a later El Nino, but probabilities are increasing very much, and how they would affect the Northern Hemisphere crops. So as you guys in market research has pointed out, El Nino is crucial for the development of trade flows and SMDs in sugar, because a potential El Nino would affect very strongly Northern Hemisphere's crops. So that's mainly India, Thailand, Northeast Brazil, and Central America. Central America, they have irrigation, so eventually it would be less damaging situation. But in such a strong El Nino scenario, we do believe at HEDGEpoint that it's very important to clients, both consumers and as well as producers, to work their hedging policies or risk management tactics through more flexible alternatives, as producers would be recommended to protect the downside for in case El Nino does not materializes, but at the same time allow them to participate on the upside and improve their prices should El Nino materialize eventually, and a strong El Nino could be happening this year. And on the other side, for consumers, we believe it's extremely important for consumers to lock in a maximum purchase price on their hedging, but also allow them to participate on the downside should El Nino not materialize, and they could bring their purchasing prices of sugar lower. So in HEDGEpoint, we are specialists in those risk management solutions where we offer structures more flexible, such as accumulators that we believe would be very recommended for producers. Now that we are at a high point in prices, we think accumulators are very welcome, eventually locking in a minimum price, allowing them to participate on the upside, and eventually increasing the volume if should prices go up much higher than that. If prices do correct to the downside, we should say that they are extremely extended for at least for a short-term period. Should prices correct to the downside, we believe that producers could lock in through swaps and buying upside participation through some call spreads or some knockout calls that would allow them to improve the prices should prices go up again. So this is the flavor of du jour that we do have. That being said, thanks for the participation. It's a pleasure to be here. Glad to contribute to the audience knowledge on risk management. That's it. Thais, back to you.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. So, as highlighted by our experts, the forecast points to a higher probability of an active El Niño in 2023, and the commodities might face higher volatility. So, some regions and crops might suffer from drier weather than usual, or even higher than needed precipitation, while others might benefit from it. So, in the end, prices will respond to its impact on total supply and balance. Therefore, understand the impacts on your market of interest becomes essential for an effective risk management strategy. We hope our content has helped you to understand where and when to expect possible bottlenecks and to be prepared. We are approaching the end of our event. I'd like to thank you all for attending our webinar today, as well our speakers, and we'd love to continue our conversation and address any points mentioned by our team today. Feel free to reach us out. Also, do not forget to complete our survey to receive the link for the white paper and the recording of the webinar. Please use this QR code. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Once again, see you soon.